Good morning, students. Today we are going to discuss our third poem, A Tiger in the Zoo. See the title, A Tiger in the Zoo. Usually we find that a tiger might be in forest, and sometime we find that a tiger is in zoo. When the tiger is in zoo, the tiger is locked behind the bars, okay? Totally his freedom, you can say it is totally lost. And when the tiger is in the forest, free, totally free. So in the poem, the poet draw the contrast, or you can say brings out a contrast between a tiger's life in the narrow confines of a zoo and his life in the natural habitat of a forest, where he doesn't only wander about without any restriction, but also strikes terror among the people in the village located at the edge of the jungle. Means when a tiger is in the forest, the area of villages which is located at the edge of the, or you can say near the forest, the people, those who are living in that particular village, they are totally terrified. They are terrified because of the tiger. But when a tiger is inside the cage, the people move around and they do not afraid. The poet Leslie Norris also wants to convey the idea that wild animals like tigers, wild animals must be free. They must enjoy their life in their natural environment. A wild animal enslaved and put in a cage in a zoo is not only deprived of the freedom in the jungle, but also of his natural essential self. So here he mentioned that such wild animals must be free, must be left free, I would say. The poem also describes this thing, as it is mentioned in the very beginning, that this poem contrasts a tiger in the zoo with the tiger in its natural habitat. The poem moves from the zoo to the jungle and back again to the zoo. Now, read the poem silently once and say which stanza speaks about the tiger in the zoo and which one speak about the tiger in the jungle. Clear? Now let's start the poem. He stalks in his vivid stripes the few steps of his cage on pads of velvet quiet in his quiet rays. See, the very first stanza of the poem indicates that the tiger is inside the cage, right? He stalks in his vivid stripes. Stripes here means that there are black color stripes on tiger's body. And he stalks, he here used for the tiger. He stalks. Stalks means moves. The tiger moves up and down in his cage in a majestic way. The few steps of his cage, he is moving only a few steps. Why? Because there is less space. There is less space in the cage, that's why he is moving only few steps. And see the first line, he stalks in his vivid stripes. See the sound, stalks, stripes. S sound is being repeated here. So which literary device? When the sound of a letter is being repeated, that is alliteration. That is alliteration. So he stalks in his vivid lines. Suppose if the question comes, which literary device has been used in the first line of the stanza, you have to mention alliteration. So the tiger is moving inside the cage as there is very less space. On pads of velvet quiet in his quiet rays. On pads of velvet quiet. See, on pads of velvet quiet. Here the poet is making a comparison. The poet compares the pads of tiger's feet with velvet, since both are soft and smooth to touch. So which literary device? He is making a comparison without using like or as. If we use like or as, then it is simile, right? But if we are making a comparison, giving another identity without using as or like, it is metaphor. So if this question comes, on pads of velvet quiet, which literary device has been used here? You have to mention metaphor. Why did the poet use this line? Because he is saying that the tiger is moving. Tiger is moving without making any sound, because the tiger's pad, or you can say tiger's feet pad, they are very soft, and when he walks stealthily. Tiger does not make any sound and moving stealthily. In his quiet rays. In his quiet rays. It means the tiger is angry there. The tiger is angry and he is helpless. He is angry because he is helpless. He cannot break the bars. He cannot come out. He cannot go to the jungle where he was living in his natural habitat. He cannot enjoy that freedom. And see, when we are using two opposite words together, when we are using two opposite words together, that is known as oxymoron. That is known as oxymoron. How? Quiet and rays. Here quiet and rays are contradictory. Here quiet and rays are contradictory. Quiet means peaceful. Rays means angry. So both are contradictory. So when we use contradictory words together, that is oxymoron. And one more, we can say that it is transferred epithet also. How? Because rays cannot be quiet. Because rays cannot be quiet. Here the tiger is. Here the tiger is. But the tiger is quiet here. Therefore, the modifier quiet is a transferred epithet. So dear student, hope you got the first stanza of the poem. The tiger is inside the cage and he is moving up and down in his cage in a majestic way. As there is less space, so he is moving here and there. He is moving peacefully without making any noise, and the tiger is angry, but he knows that he is helpless. He should be lurking in shadow. He should be lurking in shadow, sliding through long grass near the water hole where plump deer pass. Now, where is tiger in this particular stanza? Definitely it is talking about forest. This stanza is talking about forest. In this stanza, the poet feels pity for the tiger. Why? Because he is saying he should be lurking in shadow. He should be lurking in shadow. What do you mean by this? He would have been lying in the shadow of tree. He would have been lying hidden in the shadow of the tree when he was in jungle. Sliding through the long grass. Sliding, moving through the long grass. Near the water hole where plump deer pass. And when he was in the forest near the water hole, he would be waiting for some fat deer to pass. That as any of the fat deer will come, easily the tiger can attack. So, poet says that the cage is not the perfect place for the tiger. Which one is the perfect place for the tiger? That is forest. There, the tiger hid himself in the shadow of the tree, and when the tiger sees any of the deer, then he moves through the long grass and attacks. So we can say that the tiger best life is in the forest, not is in the cage. He should be snarling around houses at the jungle's edge, baring his white fangs, his claws, terrorizing the village. But he is locked in a concrete cell, his strength behind bars. So this stanza also describes the life of a tiger in the forest. Means the poet continues with the description of natural habitat of the tiger. When a tiger is totally deprived of, or you can say when the tiger is totally far away from human settlement, because he is in the forest. And when the tiger does not find any of the deer in the forest, then in search of it, the tiger comes at the outer area of the forest where the villages are located. The tiger should be running around near the houses at the edge of the jungle. He should be growling in his search of deer. And when the tiger growls, tiger's voice terrifies the people. He says, baring his white fangs. Baring means exposing. Fangs mean long sharp teeth. His claws and terrorizing the village. So when the tigers move to the village and becomes a terror for the villagers. So the third stanza also expresses the life of the tiger in the forest. But he is locked in a concrete cell. Now here the tiger is in the zoo. His strength behind bars, because the tiger is locked in the cell. Which literary device is being used here? But he is locked in a concrete cell. See, the k sound is being repeated. Concrete cell. Okay. So which literary device? Alliteration. But he is locked in a concrete cell, his strength behind bars. It means now the tiger is helpless. Tiger cannot do anything. Stalking the length of his cage, ignoring visitors. Stalking the length of his cage. Now the tiger is moving here and there in his cage and ignoring the visitors. The tiger does not look at the visitors. Why? Because here the tiger has been locked like a prisoner within a small cell made of concrete, and all his strength to frighten people is suppressed as he is forced to live behind the bars and unable to assault, and you can say and unable to assault the people. Now the people, they are not frightened. If the tiger is free or in the forest or moving nearby the area in the villages, then people will be frightened of him. But here he is inside the concrete cell. So people, they do not afraid of tiger. The patrolling cars he hears the last voice at night. The patrolling cars. He hears the last voice at night, the patrolling cars, and stares with his brilliant eyes at the brilliant stars. It means the tiger is being disturbed. As it is mentioned, he hears the last voice at night, the patrolling cars, and stares with his brilliant eyes at the brilliant stars. Means he is being disturbed by the people, by the human at night also. When he heard the last voice, when the people, or you can say those who are taking care of the zoo, they lock up everything and going home, the sound can be heard. All night, the zoo authorities keep a watch over the surroundings while driving in their official cars. So, the noise of these patrolling cars represent civilized world, and due to that, the tiger is unable to take a peaceful sleep, and that's why the tiger keeps staring at the beautiful stars which are shining brightly in the night. And see, the word brilliant is being repeated here. So which literary device it is? Repetition. Which literary device? Repetition. Listen students. When sound is being repeated, that is alliteration. Okay. When word is being repeated, that is repetition. So dear student, you will go through the poem. You will read it thoroughly. Okay. And if you have any problem, you can contact me. In next video, we shall discuss the question answers of this poem, A Tiger in the Zoo. Thank you. One more thing, you are to write down the value points, okay, and all the literary devices and word meaning in your fair notebook. Thank you.